Bedtime Bible story with Pastor. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with the man named Job. You think of Job as a man of great patience, or maybe perhaps you associate suffering with Job. But most of us, while we know that, don't really know the story of Job. Well, before you go to bed tonight, you're going to know the story of Job because I'm going to share it with you. Job was a very, very wealthy man. He had lots of flocks and lots of herds. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And those 7 sons and those 3 daughters meant everything to Job. And Job was such a faithful man to God that every day he would offer up sacrifice for his children just on the outside chance that they might have sinned against God. For you see, Job was a man of great faith and trust in God and in his Savior, Jesus. Job was such a faithful man that one day God and Satan were having a conversation about how things were going. And God pointed out Job to Satan as a model believer. And Satan challenged God. He said to God, well, of course Job is a faithful man to you. Of course he's a model believer. He's got everything. Take away all that he owns and he'll curse you in a New York minute. Well, God said, we'll just see about that. I have trust in my man Job. You can do whatever you want to him, but you can't lay a hand on his body. So Satan went to work. And as Satan went to work, we also see how powerful Satan really truly is. For you see, all in one day through means of marauding armies and the weather and all kinds of other natural disasters, Satan took away from Job everything, his flocks, his herds, his 7 sons, his 3 daughters. All that Job was left with was himself and his wife and the place where they lived. And Job, after having lost everything, made this astounding statement. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Well, time went by. And again, God and Satan were having a conversation about how things were going. And God said to Satan, Satan, look at my man Job. You said if you took everything away from him, he would curse me. And, well, he didn't. In fact, he blessed me. He continues to put his faith and trust in me. And Satan said, well, of course he puts his faith and trust in you. But if something would happen to him, his health, he'll curse you in a New York minute. And God said, okay, I don't think so, but just to prove it to you, you can have at it. You can do whatever you want to Job, but you can't take his life. And Satan, using his power, brought a disease upon Job. Sores began to break out all over his body, underneath his feet, all up and down his legs, under his armpits, in his hair. He was a mess. In fact, Job is pictured sitting with a broken piece of pottery, scraping away at the sores as they weeped all over his body. Job remained so faithful to God that even his wife began to criticize him for his faith and his trust in God. She said, why don't you just curse God and die? And Job had this to say, something very astounding about his faith and his trust in the Lord. He said, if we're willing to accept good from God, should we not also accept bad from God? And what a true statement. When things are going well in our lives and everything is great, we have no problem in saying how blessed we are by God. But we're not quite feeling so blessed when things aren't going so well in our lives. But that wasn't true for Job. Job was a man with great, great faith. Job never did curse God. In fact, he just continued to witness to his faith and trust in God. In the 19th chapter of the book of Job, Job says this about his faith in God. He says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that one day he will stand upon the earth. And though my flesh may fail, in my flesh, with my own eyes, I will see him, I and not another. How my heart yearns within me. Wow, now there is some faith and trust in God. For you see, Job, while he loved his life, while he loved life in the world, he realized that life in the world wasn't everything. Not the material wealth, not the inanimate things of life in the world. What really mattered was everlasting life, living with God in the glory of heaven forever and ever. Job's statement about, I know that my Redeemer lives, points forward to that. And perhaps because Job lived not just for this lifetime, but lived forever, his heart yearning to be with God forever, perhaps that's where Job's patience came from. No wonder he could say, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. No wonder in the midst of his suffering, because Job lived not just for time, but for all of eternity, no wonder he could say, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. If we accept good from the Lord, shall we not also accept evil? And what about you and me? As we face good times and bad times, say times like this, where things are very, very uncertain, where people are losing financial resources, they're losing income, they're losing jobs, they're losing their health, they're losing their lives. How do we live? Are we patient like Job? Do we regard our suffering as a curse from God, or do we look at our suffering sometimes as a blessing from God, a time of maturing and being refined in the faith? May you and I, as we go through these difficult times, have such a faith as Job did. May we realize that there's more to life than the material things. May we realize there's more to life than, well, life. There is something even greater, something even more wonderful that our hearts should yearn for, and that's eternity, everlasting life with the God who has created us and has redeemed us. Therein lies the real true story of Job, not just patience and suffering, but a faith that looks past things physical and visible and peers into the glory of heaven, a faith that looks past this life and looks to life with God. That's what we really yearn for. That's what we really look forward to. Well, that's the Bible story for tonight. I'll have another one for you next Monday evening about the same time, 8:30. But before I sign off, just a reminder, this Sunday morning, online worship. You have two choices this week at 10 o'clock in the morning. You can watch on Facebook, or you can watch on our church's website, www.holycrosswarren.com. I hope you enjoy Sunday morning's worship service. I look forward to worshiping with you. And now, the Lord guide you waking and guard you sleeping, that awake you may watch with Christ, and asleep you may rest in peace. Nighty-night, Holy Cross. Have a great weekend.